When we delve into the question of who created God, we're entering a profound space of reflection, one that requires us to set aside assumptions and look deeper into the essence of existence itself. To understand the answer, we must first examine the nature of causality, cause and effect, and how it applies to our reality. We observe in our world that everything seems to have a cause. A tree grows from a seed, rain falls from clouds, and even we came into being through a process of reproduction. This is the principle of causation, where one thing leads to another. It's natural for us to think, if this applies to everything I see, then it must also apply to the existence of a creator. But there's a subtle flaw in this assumption. Causality, as we experience it, is part of the framework of our universe. It governs the material world, bound by time and space. Within this framework, it makes sense to ask what caused something, because everything we know begins and ends within time. But now we must ask, is this framework itself infinite, or does it require an explanation beyond itself? If every effect must have a cause, and that cause itself has a cause, and so on, where does it end? If we were to go back infinitely, we'd never arrive at the present moment. This is what's known as the problem of infinite regress. Imagine you're standing in a queue, and every person ahead of you must finish their turn before you can move forward. If the queue stretches infinitely, will your turn ever come? No, because you'd never reach the present. So, the chain of causes cannot extend infinitely into the past. There must be a starting point, an uncaused cause, something that exists outside of the chain of causality. This is what philosophers refer to as a necessary being, an entity whose existence isn't contingent on anything else. It exists by its very nature, and it is the foundation of all existence. Now, why does this answer make sense? Because asking who created the creator assumes that the creator is part of the same system we observe in the universe. But the creator, by definition, is beyond the universe. If the creator were also caused, then whatever caused the creator would be greater, and the question would simply move up a level. This isn't logical, as it still leaves us asking for the origin of all things. To illustrate this further, imagine you're reading a book. Every chapter depends on the one before it, yet the book itself cannot exist without an author. The author isn't part of the chapters or bound by their sequence. They exist outside of the story entirely. Similarly, the creator isn't confined to the rules of time, space, and causality that govern our universe. Some may argue, but if we accept that the creator is uncaused, why not simply say the universe is uncaused? Here's the difference. The universe as we observe it is not self-sustaining. It's a collection of dependent parts governed by laws and constantly changing. Everything in it is contingent, relying on something else for its existence. To say the universe is uncaused is to claim that something inherently dependent and finite has always existed, which doesn't align with what we know about reality. The creator, however, isn't made of parts, isn't governed by laws, and isn't subject to time. By definition, this being is self-sufficient, eternal, and unchanging, the source of all existence. Such a being doesn't require a cause, because it doesn't come into existence, it simply is. Let's think about this in another way. Consider the concept of numbers. Numbers are abstract, not physical, yet they are foundational to our understanding of reality. No one asks, who created the number 1? Because it's not something that began to exist. It simply exists as a necessary truth. Similarly, the creator is not something that began to exist, but is the ultimate reality upon which everything else depends. But how do we know such a being is real and not just a concept? Look around you. The universe is not random chaos. It's ordered, fine-tuned, and governed by intricate laws. From the precision of the constants in physics to the complexity of life, everything points to a purposeful design. Purpose implies intention, and intention implies a being with knowledge and power. In essence, when we ask, who created God? We're not addressing the Creator's nature, but projecting our limited understanding onto it. The question stems from a misunderstanding of what the Creator is, a being fundamentally different from anything within creation. The Creator is the necessary foundation, the uncaused cause, and the answer to why anything exists at all. This line of reasoning isn't about avoiding the question, but about recognizing the limits of applying human experience to something beyond human comprehension. It's about understanding that not everything operates under the rules we know, and that's precisely why the concept of a creator transcends time, space, and causality. So, instead of asking who created God, the more meaningful question becomes, why does anything exist rather than nothing? And the answer lies in recognizing the necessity of an eternal, uncaused, and ultimate source of existence.